What's up, my brothers from another mother? This is going to be a crucial video that will clarify 4 things that many of you guys don't have a lot of clarity on between the differences with men and women. So this should help some of you guys level up some of you women who watch my videos as a fly in the wall. This will help you understand a few concepts that might have eluded you before. Before I get started into these 4 things, you should know that these are not intended to reinforce any unfavorable stereotypes about women in partnerships, such as the idea that they make people affluent. I want to highlight that the goal of these 4 suggestions that I'm going to give you, and these 4 lessons that you're going to learn in this video, is for you to learn them, because there are always those guys out there. Accept them, move forward, and realize what they all represent. Number 1. One of the largest differences between men and women, and one that I think both sexes have a hard time accepting, is that although men are more interested in the past, women are more focused on the future. In fact, in some situations it's almost desirable for women to know that guys have had some experience and they understand the dynamics between men and men. Women, on the other hand, are more worried about the futures of men, so they aren't especially bothered if you have a notch count of 150. Women want to know that they are with a strong guy who, once again, can make it rain, can get things done, can solve problems, and has competency skills. Can you make it rain? Do you know how to make bank? Are you a competent guy who can get stuff done? Are you the type of guy who, when difficulties enter your life, quits, sulks, complains, and whines about it? No matter how much of the feminist indoctrination narrative we all buy into in society that seeks to level the playing field and create an egalitarian structure where men and women are equal, it's always been that way and it always will be that way. It's never going to change. We men, on the other hand, are worried about a woman's past, and most of you guys out there want to be in a long-term relationship with a woman, or want to interact with women more positively. However, some of you guys still make an incredibly bad choice by allowing or inviting problem women with problems into your life, such as, she's been around the block. Men with a lot of experience versus women with a lot of intimate experience out there are 2 different stories, so you've got to be aware of that again. So to distill that concept, point number 1 is that while women are more concerned about men's future, men should be more concerned about her past. There have been many studies done around this. Number 2. It will be difficult for some women to accept point number 2, which is that today's women have an excessively entitled sense of self-worth that is not at all in line with their true sexual marketplace value. I believe some of you guys already grasp this concept, but some of you truly don't. I'll give you a very good example of this. Occasionally, women who I consult with send me requests to make videos on topics they're stuck on. I had one of these requests the other day from a woman in her late 30s who was making a respectable amount of money at her job. She had done well for herself because she had figured out how to start a company of one and broadcast information. She harassed me with the following: I want to find a guy and I need your help. I'm single. I'm a single mom, here's my story. I make a lot of money, but I want an alpha male that makes more money than me and is smarter than me. She had one of them earlier this year, so she essentially has a baby, and the other one looks somewhere around the age of, let's just say, under the even. While this is not extremely novel, it can seem that way to someone who is not familiar with the topic. Yet this is actually rather normal. She didn't accurately perceive the value she puts on the market structure. She was a beautiful woman when she was younger. I am aware of all of these things, the years being true. She connected her social media accounts because I was interested in learning more about her. She was a beautiful woman when she was younger. Nevertheless, after a marriage, 2 kids, and whatever else had led up to it, her appearance has significantly declined, but she was at the point where she felt entitled. She was divorced, her husband had left her for another woman, and she had a baby and a young child with her. She felt entitled to a more desirable man than the one who had left her for the other woman, and she expected him to earn more money than she did. I'll be honest with you, there isn't a man around her age who would be an alpha male and who would also be willing to take on the responsibility of another man's children or deal with the drama associated with that for a woman who isn't even close to reaching the height of her sexual market value, which peaks around the age of 23. Men, on the other hand, have the chance to peak much later in life, say in their late 30s or so, possibly even closer to 40 depending on how well they take care of themselves, and when they do, it's actually good for men because there is a big discrepancy and women's self-unbelief. Their entitlement of their sexual marketplace value is much higher. This woman again, she wrote off a company of one business model, working for herself, making $30,000 a month, obviously had a good following, had the attention and adoration of a lot of people. Because of the products she was advertising and selling, I would assume that the majority of her audience was female. Yet, no man in his right mind would choose an alpha male who earns more than $31,000 each month because it is one of her requirements. Women are known to be hypergamous, thus they constantly desire better than what they currently have. Women only date and get married at higher socioeconomic levels. Most of the time, when people are looking for a one-night stand or fling, if they are alpha enough, nothing will stop them from spending the night with a man who has recently served time in jail. However, on a long-term basis, hypergamy asserts that they only date and marry up. As a man in this sexual marketplace today, you must recognize that women have an excessively entitled sense of self-worth and believe that they are worth substantially more than their actual market value. Women have a difficult time recognizing the possibility that they may eventually run into a wall and realize how unfortunate it was. It's generally at that point that they understand they need to reduce their standards and adopt a more realistic view of their value in society, because regardless of how much money women make, they never share it with men. Men are stupid because we share our golden pot with women. Women don't typically share their wealth with men on a long-term basis because they expect, as I mentioned with this woman's request, to connect with someone who is better off and who, of course, checks off all these boxes. So many of the requirements that women seem to have include things like must be funny, must be sweet, must be loving, must accept you know my children as their own, must be alpha, must be competent, must know how to change a tire, must know how to do dude. I advised her up front that she should either reduce her standards for what she's seeking for or get her kid's father back, because doing so is best for them, and that she wouldn't fare much better. I noticed the images of the person in the feed, but the truth is that women find it difficult to accept the fact that men must grasp it. Ladies are unlikely to want to accept it at some time, but again, this is truth number 2, so let's get started. Number 3. And with this one, there aren't any good girls, to put it simply. The only distinction between nice females and terrible girls is that the latter have already been apprehended, while the former haven't, or haven't been made public yet, if you will. All women have a tainted background, albeit some have it worse than others. The other day, someone sent me this link and tagged me in it on Instagram. It was an interview with, quite possibly, the most attractive woman you've ever seen, who was speaking with her girlfriend about the 7 men she had an oral with one after another to prove her worth. She essentially sold herself by saying, "Oh, but I didn't sleep with them all, even though they all ran a train." Men are most concerned with a woman's past, as I stated in point number 1, so women aren't going to go about bragging to guys about their troubled pasts. This one was foolish for documenting it, though, since it will eventually bite her in the rear again. But the issue is that, unless you live in an Amish hamlet and marry one of these Amish ladies, where the community is prosperous, there aren't any good girls around anymore. If you're in a huge urban coastal city with many millions of residents, you won't find the good girls since there aren't any. Instead, you'll find some good ones and some terrible ones. You know well known and you are aware of her past. The only difference between a good girl and a bad girl is that the bad girls have been caught. That's the only difference. The good girls have some stories covering up what it is that's going on. So just understand that when you're getting out, there are a lot of guys who will approach dating in the sexual marketplace. I just want to find that good one, and that's the absolute wrong way to approach it. You need to look at women in the sexual marketplace today. In the modern world, after all these waves of feminism have changed the sexual marketplace, or what it truly is. I'll write the 4th and final point, which some women are not going to like me revealing it, and some guys, this is going to be a difficult pill for you to swallow. Number 4 is you're probably not her first choice. There's this concept of the alpha widow, and let me distill it for you this way. I'm going to share the story with you. There was a guy that I was coaching at one point. He was dealing with some difficulty trying to get over someone. He had an unhealthy attachment to a girl, and it was about 4 to 5 weeks of dating. He wanted to be exclusive with her, so he brought up the where do we stand talk, and I've said this many times, guys, this is for women to bring it up. Men bringing up the where do we stand talk is always a bad maneuver, but let's set that aside. So he brings up the where do we stand talk. She agrees to be exclusive with him, and he thinks everything's hunky-dory tickety-boo, but he still has some weird tingling sensation that something's wrong. His intuition's talking to him saying, "Hey Bill, you know you might want to check out this or maybe investigate a little further or think about that." By the way, guys, listen to your intuition. It's a really important component of doing well in the world as a guy. because it does speak to you and it picks up on a lot of crap that a lot of us tend to ignore or maybe just kind of like brush over very quickly. So anyway, back to the story. She's in the shower one day, it's in the morning, he decides to go to her laptop and look at her emails, and he finds there an email from the week before, literally 2 days after he had the talk with her about how they would commit to each other, and she sent this email to this guy that she was dating recently that had dumped her. And this is what an alpha widow is. They won't tell you this, they don't have a t-shirt that says, "Hey, by the way, I'm an alpha widow." But this is what he discovered. She sent this email to this guy pleading with him to get back together with her, and that they would be perfect together. They were both in their 30s, by the way. I think he was about 34 or 35, and she might have been about 31 or a few years younger. But she was basically pleading with this guy, "Please, let's get back together. We would have beautiful children. I'm very successful. It would be amazing if we could be together, so please, please, please." And this question, this broke his heart, because this was sent out literally days of them having the talk and her committing to him on a long-term basis. So you got to understand that for the most part, a lot of guys get into long-term relationships with women, and you're not her first choice. And it's my recommendation, guys, on this fourth point, that you never, ever, 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 ever waste your time in a relationship with a woman where you're not her first choice, because you're never going to get her best. She's always going to be pining for some other guy, and throughout the course of that relationship, you will go through a process of betaization through 1,000 concessions, which will ultimately render you completely unattractive to her, and she will probably end up cheating on you or leaving you at some point. So I'm gonna leave it at that with those 4 points. This is an incredibly important video, guys. I want you to learn lessons from this. I don't want you to get mad at the world, because that's just the reality of the world. Now that you've known that, now that you can see, the code in the matrix for what it is, and how are you going to respond to this, right? Take this lesson, share it with somebody, because there's a friend of yours out there, I guarantee right now, that probably needs to see this video, and that one of these 4 tips will offer him some clarity. So I suggest number 2, subscribe to the channel, because a lot of you guys watch these videos. Hi, I'm Rich Cooper. I talk about a lot of stuff that helps you become a better versions of yourself. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, I broadcast a lot, and I'm here to help you with that. If there's anything that you want to connect with me on a more intimate basis, pinned in the top comment, there's a bunch of useful links, books that I recommend reading. If you want to connect with me for coaching, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment below and smash the like button, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace you.